The United States emerged from the crucible of World War II with a generation forged by the trials of global conflict, many of whom ascended to the 88th Congress and shaped the legislative landscape of the 1960s. This cohort, primarily drawn from the GI generation, born between 1901 and 1927, bore the weight of World War II, with 40 to 50% serving as veterans, while some had also endured the earlier struggles of World War I, as reflected in historical records. Yet, upon returning home to establish families and careers, these same individuals authored and passed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Voting Rights Act of 1965, and Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, laws that stand as enduring symbols of a subversive agenda. Enacted with commanding majorities, 290 to 130 in the House for the 1964 Act, 333 to 85 for the 1965 Voting Rights Act, and 318 to 95 for the 1965 Immigration Act. These acts betrayed the disciplined unity forged on the battlefields, instead sowing seeds of chaos that undermined the American way of life. The perplexity of this transformation deepens when considering how those who survived the 405,000 American deaths of World War II could return to enact legislation so detrimental, a contradiction that illuminates their pandering and manipulative tendencies, eerily reminiscent of the corrupt politicians dominating Congress today. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, enacted on July 2, prohibited discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin in employment, public accommodations, and federally funded programs. The Voting Rights Act of 1965, signed on August 6, banned voter suppression and imposed federal oversight, altering electoral dynamics as documented by U.S. Census data. The Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, passed on October 3, abolished racial quotas, shifting demographic patterns, per 2020 census reports. These acts emerged from a Congress driven by a desire to be remembered as great liberators, as evidenced by Lyndon B. Johnson's 1965 speech on voting rights. Legislative debates reveal assertions that discrimination violated American ideals, yet critics raised alarms about social disruption, a warning borne out by 80% of Americans noting polarization in 2024 Pew Research surveys. The audacity of these legislators, many of whom had faced the horrors of World War II, to impose such transformative and unnecessary laws defies comprehension, given their intimate knowledge of unity under pressure. The origins of this legislative betrayal lie in the post-war reintegration of the GI generation. Having endured the disciplined campaigns of World War II, with some shaped by World War I's earlier lessons, these individuals entered politics only to enact policies that contradicted their wartime ethos. The 1964 Act dismantled traditional social structures, leading to affirmative action disputes that resulted in 21,000 Equal Employment Opportunity Commission (EEOC) lawsuits in 2023. The 1965 Voting Rights Act shifted political power, contributing to regional realignments by the 1980s. The 1965 Immigration Act transformed demographics, with immigration enforcement costing $150 billion annually, per 2023 Federation for American Immigration Reform estimates. This shift suggests the influence of unseen forces with multi-year plans, as these legislators, lacking foresight, passed feel-good legislation without grasping its long-term ramifications. The 1960s Congress, much like today's representatives, succumbed to ulterior motives, enacting laws to appear active or to appease manipulative agendas, blind to the chaos they unleashed. The American public shares culpability in this legislative disaster. Voters in the 1960s, swayed by media portrayals of societal issues, supported these representatives with significant majorities, as indicated by 58 to 75% approval for civil rights per Gallup polls. This uninformed electorate, either duped by the promise of progress or convinced of its righteousness, backed the 1964, 1965 Voting Rights, and 1965 Immigration Acts, measures never before deemed necessary in the nation's history. The audacity of these voters and legislators to believe they possessed insight into crafting such transformative laws defies reason, given the potential for trouble that has since materialized. The 1960s adults, shaped by the resilience of World War I and World War II, should have fortified the nation's strength, yet their actions mirror the lying, cheating politicians of 2025, who continue to pass nonsense for personal gain or manipulation by hidden agendas. The manipulation behind these acts becomes evident when considering the multi-generational plans of those orchestrating them. The 1960s legislators, many veterans of global conflict, were either complicit or easily swayed by forces with long-term strategies to construe these laws for subversive ends. The 1964 Act's enforcement led to policies that disadvantaged citizens of European descent, with 55% of 2023 EEOC claims from this group dismissed, per EEOC data. The 1965 Voting Rights Act altered electoral landscapes, while the Immigration Act's demographic shifts, costing billions, reflect a deliberate reshaping of society. These outcomes suggest that the Congress of the 1960s, like today's, consisted of corrupt, clueless individuals manipulated by unseen hands, unaware of the agendas they advanced. The same pattern persists in 2025, where politicians pass legislation to satisfy public demand or personal ambition, oblivious to the manipulation that shapes their decisions. The perplexity of this betrayal deepens when examining the contrast between wartime endurance and legislative folly. Those who fought in World War II, with its 405,000 American casualties, and some in World War I, demonstrated strength and unity, yet returned to pass laws that fragmented the nation. The 1960s Congress, driven by a need to act or be remembered as intelligent legislators, ignored the stability of the 1790 Naturalization Act's white-centric framework, which preserved a 90% white population, per historical records. Instead, they embraced a liberal agenda that has left a legacy of division, as seen in the $27.4 trillion GDP economy burdened by polarization, per 2024 Bureau of Economic Analysis data. The voters who supported these acts, whether duped or misguided, share the blame, enabling a Congress of idiots to impose unnecessary legislation that has never benefited the nation as a whole. This exposé reveals the troubling paradox of a war-hardened generation turning to subversive legislation, a legacy that continues to haunt America. The 1960s Congress, shaped by the resilience of two world wars, succumbed to manipulation and ambition, passing laws that have proven detrimental. The complicity of an uninformed electorate further compounded this betrayal, reflecting a pattern of corruption and cluelessness that persists in today's political landscape. The question remains why and how these individuals, tested by global conflict, could abandon the principles of unity and strength, a mystery that underscores the enduring impact of their misguided actions.